Pangalawa, nakikita ko na dito sa RH Bill, in addition to weakening the judgment against abortion, nakikita ko natin dito yung confused na attitude niya towards population. Dito, for instance, sa Section 3 sa Guiding Principles, nakalagay, number 11, there shall be no demographic or population targets, and the mitigation of the population growth rate is incidental to the promotion of reproductive health and sustainable human development. So, sinasabi dito, yung population control, hindi naman talaga dapat parte ng RH Bill. Nakasaad sa batas na ito, hindi daw parte yung, yung population control. And yet, one sentence later, ito sinasabi niya, the limited resources of the country cannot be suffered to be spread so thinly to service a burgeoning multitude that makes the allocations grossly inadequate and effectively meaningless. So on one hand, sinabi mo, walang demographic or population targets. On the other hand, sinasabi, one sentence later, biglang sinabi, konti lang ang resources ng ating bansa, kailangan hindi lumaki ang ating populasyon. Medyo double-minded po ata ang RH Bill na ito. Nandito din po sa Section 3, sa mga guiding principles. Kita natin dito. Freedom of choice, which is central to the exercise of right, must be fully guaranteed by the state. Alahanin po natin na in other countries, the word freedom of choice, when related to reproductive rights, when related to anything relating to reproduction, madalas ginagamit po na code word for the choice or the right to have an abortion. Kaya sabihin natin hindi yun ang ginagamit sa ating bansa. By the mere fact na government po natin ay puno-puno na po ng pag-agree, mapuno ng agreements sa mga international treaties and obligations sa UN, in which choice is a code word for abortion, then we must be at the very least careful. In Section 3, nakalagay din po dito, respect for, protection, and fulfillment of reproductive health and rights, seek to promote the rights and welfare of couples, adult individuals, women, and adolescents. So, nakikita po natin dito, yung reproductive health and rights, in traditional Filipino values, saan po, kanino po limitado yan? Sino po ang pwedeng makipagsiping at magkaanak? Ang may asawa, ang may pamilya, those who have been joined in marriage. For the first time in Philippine history, this law wants equality in the protection fulfillment of reproductive health and rights by the government itself. Ay yung government ang po-protect ng kanilang reproductive health and rights. Hindi lang para sa couples, kundi sa adult individuals, women, single women, I guess, no? Single women and adolescents. So, ang tanong dyan is the state now saying that individuals and even adolescents, and adolescents is about, mostly mga teenagers, will now be considered as having the right to fulfill their reproductive rights by the government. Pwede magkaanak kung gusto nila, pwede hindi magkaanak kung gusto nila. Buti lang nawala na dito yung dating, in the earlier versions of the RH Bill, ang nakalagay pa dito, the right to have a safe and satisfying sex life. That was the original term. Tinanggal na kasi obvious na obvious masyado. Now, it is true. It is true na maraming adolescents at maraming mga adult individuals ang nagpa-practice ng premarital sex. Totoo po yun. The church is not denying reality. Pero it is one thing for us to admit the reality and another thing for the government to condone or approve it. Okay, so there are many teenagers and there are many unmarried individuals who practice premarital sex and have children. Does this mean that they now have a right to do so? Does this mean that their right to do so is now going to be protected by the government? Kasi the moment you say na ang gobyerno ay poprotektahan na ultimong karapatan ng mga unmarried individuals at ng mga teenagers na fulfill ang kanilang reproductive health and rights, then what is the point, at least from the point of view of law, what is the point of getting married? Sooner or later, marriage is going to lose its unique value in our law. Kaya nga, kami po mga opponents ng Marriage Bill, ang tingin po namin dito sa Marriage Bill, it is weakening the dam. It does not necessarily destroy the dam against immorality, but it gravely weakens it. And sooner or later, masisira yung dam na rin dito. Sa ibang kasi, sa mga ibang audiences, ang favorite ko na naman yung Section 16, yung mandatory sex education. So this will be the second to the last point of my talk. Section 16, yung mandatory sex education. Age-appropriate reproductive health and sexuality education shall be taught by adequately trained teachers with formal and non-formal education system, starting from grade 5 up to 4th year high school using life skills and other approach. So, parang maganda naman, di ba? Parang ang ganda tingnan. Oo nga naman, age-appropriate. Tuturuan natin sa tungkol sa reproductive system kasi we cannot ignore naman the fact that even children have reproductive systems. The problem is not so much that they are going to be taught about reproductive matters in school. The problem is the curriculum, which is to be found in the RH Bill itself. Babasahin mo po kung ano yung curriculum. Values formation. Knowledge and skills in self-protection against discrimination, sexual violence, and abuse and teen pregnancy. So kung okay naman yun, di ba? Physical, social, and emotional changes in adolescents. Oh, okay naman na. Children's and women's rights. Okay. Fertility awareness. Sexually transmitted diseases, HIV and AIDS. Population development. Medyo may problema ito, pero sige, let's let it pass. Responsible relationship. Family planning methods. Remember, we're talking here about the sex education curriculum for grade 5 up to 4th year high school students. Meron na pong agad tatlong questionable aspeto ang curriculum na ito. Una sa lahat, yung values formation. Wala namang masama sa values formation eh. Kaya lang, ang sabi sa batas, yung values formation na ito ay naaayon sa curriculum na dapat na ipapataw ng gobyerno mismo. And common to both public and private schools. Now, siguro pagdating sa mga sciences, pagdating sa history, pagdating sa mga ganong klase mga topics, siguro may tindakan natin yung common curriculum for public and private. But for public and private schools, meaning in this country, Catholic schools, kung ang pag-uusapan ay values formation, this is something that should be primarily regulated by the church. I know that in some Catholic schools that's no longer done, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the principle. The principle is in Catholic schools, the values should be according to Catholic principles. Is that obvious? Catholic school nga eh. Kasi if Catholic schools are not going to teach anything, are not going to teach values formation according to Catholic principles, the Catholic school might as well close shop. Kasi wala siyang katuturan. Sorry for being so blunt. But Catholic schools are supposed to teach values formation according to their own proper principles and own proper curriculum. Hindi pwede yung common na ipapataw ng gobyerno both on public and on private. Pangalawa, kung talagang hindi pa tungkol sa promiscuity, pagpapalaga ng promiscuity ang RH bill na ito, then bakit kailangan mong turuan agad ng family planning methods ang mga kabataan? Mga 10 to 16-year-olds na po ito. Siguro, kung yung mga ang tuturuan ng family planning methods ay mga adulto, maintindihan pa natin. Although even there, may mga moral questions to. But 10 to 16-year-olds, tuturuan ng family planning methods according to the curriculum prescribed by the RH bill itself, dun pala medyo may problema na tayo. Lahat po tayo dumaan sa pamilya 10 to 16-year-old, di ba? Lahat po tayo naalala pa siguro yung curiosity na matindi noong panahon na yun. Kung ang mga estudyante, tuturuan, ganun ka bata, tuturuan mo tungkol sa family planning methods, hindi mo maituturo ang family planning methods na hindi niyo po tuturuan ng medyo intimate na detalye tungkol sa pagtatalik. Ganun po talaga. Hindi may iwasan na pag-uusapan ng mga sensitibong parte ng katawan at ano ang mga gagawin dito para medyo okay ang family planning. And the moment na pag-usapan ng mga sensitibo at mga intimate na bagay na ito, ito school setting, lalo-lalo na po siguro sa mga co-ed schools, diba? I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of experimentation outside the classroom. There's going to be a lot of it. And don't blame us for making this up because it's right here in the bill. Tapos naalala ko sa kanina, sa section 3, wala daw demographic targets ang RH bill. Pero biglang sa section 20, merong the state shall assist couples, parents, and individuals to achieve their desired family size within the context of responsible parenting for sustainable development and encourage them to have 2 children as the ideal family size. Attaining the ideal family size is neither mandatory nor compulsory. No punitive action shall be imposed on parents having more than 2 children. So, on one hand, parang okay lang kasi ini-encourage na naman, hindi naman sapilitan. But even then, ang tanong pa rin dito, ano ang karapatan ng gobyerno na to even propose an ideal? Diba? What is the right of the government to even propose 2 children as the ideal family size? The fact is, for a lot of people, for a lot of very poor people in particular, 2 children may species problematic kasi they will need a lot of children to support them in their old age kasi marami sa mga bata niyan, mamamatay, kakasakit, and not because kulang ang condom sa countryside. In fact, when in the theoretical possibility na lahat ng mga pamilya natin magkaroon ng 2 children lang, since you're going to consider infant mortality and a lot of young Filipinos dying at very early age, this is really a recipe for demographic collapse of our country. And I think nag-usapan ni AJ yung masama pa rin dito. Papa,